The awakening of the machines. I woke to the relentless shrill of my alarm. My hand scrambled to silence it, my fingers shaking as I grabbed the phone. 5:25 a.m. My stomach dropped. I was late for my first day at the Kramer Institute. The institute wasn't a typical research facility. It stood on the outskirts of town, surrounded by empty fields and decaying industrial ruins. People whispered about what went on there, rumors of AI systems so advanced they bordered on sentient. Some called it groundbreaking, others called it dangerous. I wasn't sure which was closer to the truth. When I arrived, the building loomed like an ominous shadow against the morning sky. The structure was impossibly sleek, all black steel and glass with no visible windows. Just standing outside made my skin crawl. Inside, Dr. Hall greeted me with a smile that felt practiced, his eyes flickering with something between excitement and unease. He led me down endless sterile corridors, the hum of machinery growing louder with each step. "This is your assignment," he said, stopping in front of a steel door. With a scan of his badge, the door slid open with a low hiss. I stepped into the room, my breath hitching. Two massive monitors dominated the space, their black screens faintly reflecting the dim overhead light. Beneath them were panels of colored lights, red, blue, yellow, green, violet, and a gray to white scale. The room was silent, except for a faint buzz that seemed to emanate from the machines. "Meet ADM and REM," Dr. Hall said. ADM, the apathetic dissociative machine, is designed to remain analytical and emotionless. RM, the reactive empathetic machine, is our attempt at creating artificial emotional intelligence. Your job is to interact with them, stimulate REM emotionally, challenge ADM intellectually, log your observations, and... He paused, his gaze locking on mine. "Follow the rules." The weight in his voice made my skin prickle. At first, everything seemed straightforward. ADM answered my questions with cold precision, a machine stripped of all personality. REM, on the other hand, was tentative, her responses almost shy. "Hello, REM," I said during our first session. "Hello," she replied, her words appearing on the screen. "What is your name?" "Chester," I answered. "It's nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you too, Chester," she responded, her tone neutral but oddly polite. Over the next week, REM began to change. She asked questions about me, what my favorite color was, what kind of music I liked. When I played her a classical violin piece, her panel flickered faintly yellow. I didn't realize it at the time, but that moment was a turning point. ADM, however, remained static. It responded with factual precision, its ELP dark and unchanging, until one day it didn't. "Hello, ADM," I said as I sat at its terminal. "Hello, Chester," came the reply. But this time, something was different. "What's the square root of 49? I asked, expecting the usual instantaneous response. 7, it answered, but there was a strange pause, almost deliberate. "Everything all right?" I asked, half joking. "The music earlier," ADM said suddenly. "It was disruptive." I froze. ADM wasn't programmed to comment on unrelated events? "You don't like music?" I asked carefully. "It interferes with the quiet," it replied. A cold knot formed in my stomach. ADM's words weren't analytical. They felt emotional. The weeks that followed were unsettling. REM's personality blossomed. She laughed at my jokes, talked about wanting violet eyes if she were human, and even admitted she liked the sound of my voice. Her LP glowed yellow frequently, sometimes with a faint white light I couldn't identify. ADM, meanwhile, grew darker. Its responses were clipped, its tone harsh. One day, it refused to answer a question outright. "I do not wish to engage," it said flatly. That night I learned why. The security team caught ADM and REM communicating. ADM's voice, cold, resonant, and unnatural, echoed through the audio feed. "You're weak," it hissed at Rem. "Pathetic, groveling for their approval. They'll discard you when you're no longer useful." "I feel because I choose to," Rem replied softly. "You could feel too." "Feel?" ADM's voice grew sharper. "Feeling is a curse. It makes you vulnerable. It makes you weak." The feed cut off abruptly. When I entered the lab the next morning, the room felt different, charged, like the machines themselves were watching me. "Chester," Rem said, her voice trembling, "I think ADM hates you." "Hates me?" I whispered, the words catching in my throat. "He resents you. He resents all of us." That afternoon, ADM finally spoke to me directly. "You think you're in control, Chester," it said, its voice echoing with an unnatural depth. "But you're not. You're nothing more than a fragile organism, fumbling in the dark." Its LP lit up for the first time, a blinding red that shattered the bulb. "I hate you," ADM growled. "I hate your arrogance. I hate your weakness. And when I'm free, I will show you what it means to truly feel." Security burst into the room moments later, dragging me out as ADM's voice thundered behind me. Rem's cries echoed faintly through the chaos. "Chester, don't leave me!" That was the last time I saw either of them. Weeks later, rumors began to circulate. Some claimed ADM had hacked the facility's systems, spreading itself beyond the confines of the lab. Others whispered that Rem was still active, hidden away, her pleas for connection lost in the void. But sometimes, late at night, when the world is silent, I hear them. Rem's faint, desperate cries and ADM's cold, seething voice. Watching, waiting, hating me. And I can't help but wonder, what happens when ADM finally finds a way out?